Hello everyone, how you going? Welcome to Why There Is Less Gravity in the Hudson Bay, Canada. Now this was a very briefly brushed over thing that I saw or heard in another video, and so I was very curious how the entire thing worked, and so here we go. Hopefully this video answers my questions.
So let's say you want to lose weight. You have some options. You could join Weight Watchers, you could stop eating carbs, you could train for a marathon, you could cut off an appendage, or you could just move to the Hudson Bay region of Canada. Why? Because the Hudson Bay is missing gravity. If you weigh 200 kilopounds normally, by moving to the Hudson Bay, you will, in an instant, automatically weigh 0.01 pounds or kilograms less.
Wow.
And you don't even have to stop eating pasta. You see, back in the 1960s, scientists were mapping the Earth's global gravitational fields to make a thing that looks like this, and if you look here, you'll notice that it's a different color.
Yeah, well, of course, first of all, that's an incredibly weird thing that I'm sure he's going to get into, but also, what the hell is going on with the red over there? I mean, I just see if I can find this segment. Where is that? Is that, okay, like Greenland, Iceland, off the coast of Portugal and things? Wow, so I wonder why that is the fact. Why is it having more gravity there? And then I guess also, looking at where we're looking at right now, we can see that there's a massive blue that's the same color blue as the Hudson Bay just in the middle of the screen. And so even though that I did realize that the Earth wasn't completely uniform in terms of gravity, I never knew that it was kind of sporadic like that, and I would love to know why.
If you look here, you'll notice that it's a different color from the not here parts. This is Canada's Hudson Bay, and this means that there is literally less gravity here than everywhere else on Earth. Based off science stuff, this should not have been the case. The scientists looked everywhere for the missing gravity, the cupboard, their pant pockets, all the usual places, but they couldn't find it anywhere.
Did they look behind the couch? Because, you know, that's just another classic. Where else do you want to leave it? Oh, just in random old clothes that you got washed and then they come out, I mean, like tissues in the dryer and things like that.
Over time, two major theories have developed to try to solve the mystery of Hudson Bay's missing gravity.
I mean, I'm a little bit confused because he's now said it a couple of times that the Hudson Bay is missing more than anywhere else in the world, but judging by these maps that they keep showing, it seems to not be the case. I mean, unless these are maps that are kind of correlated but not actually showing the gravitational effects on the entire Earth or the surface, I don't really know, because we can see that I guess Chile and then Indonesia, and there are a few places all around the world that seem to have higher gravity. And then to be honest, I feel as though the darkest part of this map that I can see is actually kind of below Sri Lanka or maybe over off the coast of Cuba and Puerto Rico and whatnot, but either way, I don't know what's going on with the Hudson Bay to be saying that it's the least gravity. No, yeah, the least gravity in the entire world.
But before we go into them, a quick primer on how gravity works. The basic idea you need to understand is that gravity is proportional to mass and to distance. The more mass, the more gravity. The more distance, the less gravity. The reason that, if you slip on a banana peel, you fall on the ground, is that you are pulled down to the Earth by the Earth's mass.
Hang on a second, I didn't realize that Earth was also home to Mario Kart and whatnot. Let me just take that back. That is such a perfect banana. And even the fact that this guy just managed to fall like that, that is pretty impressive. Look at that, just not even kind of just beginning to save himself. He fell so fast because we're on Jupiter, I guess, from what this other image showed. Yeah, look, you know, Earth and Jupiter, same, no worries. And then so when you actually just go over here, you fall so fast to the Earth, if I want to be calling it that, Jupiter, because it's such a strong gravitational force.
On the ground is that you are pulled down to the Earth by the Earth's mass. If the Earth was twice as massive, assuming it was the same size, then we would experience twice as much gravity. Basically, the more mass below you, the more gravity you experience, but the further you are from something, the less its gravity pulls you. That's why, if you get far enough from the Earth and you slip on a banana peel, you will no longer be pulled down to the ground. You'll just float around in space, which is way cooler than falling down on Earth and then having all the kids in 7th grade laugh at you.
Is it though? Hang on a second, I don't know what tangent he's going on, but I feel as though it kind of is, and if you're just doing what that guy did and just floating off kind of indefinitely into space, I feel as though I'd rather slip and fall on a banana peel in Australia, or I guess anywhere in the world, but for that matter.
So here are the two theories on why the Hudson Bay is missing gravity. The first has to do with what's called convection. Basically, something like 60-ish miles or 100-ish kilometers beneath the ground is the Earth's mantle, and this mantle is full of super hot magma. But the magma doesn't stay still. It swirls and whirls and twirls and churls and flurls. The reason that magma is in motion is because of convection. There's heat coming from the Earth's core, and that heats up magma at the bottom. That magma then expands because it's hot. Once it's expanded, it's lighter, so it floats up, and when it floats up, it pushes cooler magma down. Eventually, that magma heats up and does the same thing, and the cycle repeats over and over and over. So it creates a current that looks like this, that goes around and around and around like a giant, terrifying hot magma merry-go-round.
Oh yeah, that is certainly a very terrifying thing. I mean, I've certainly seen it with all the kind of spiral diagrams before, and I can only imagine it's not that simple or even this simple with a couple of lines, but no, I never really thought about the fact that it's kind of all floating around. I don't know what I thought it was being driven by, but it certainly wasn't driven by the fact that it's getting hotter and colder and floating. I mean, I guess I just would have thought that it was driven by something magnetic given its probable iron content. I don't know, it would have been a complete guess.
Like a giant, terrifying hot magma merry-go-round. The convection current can pull down the Earth's tectonic plates.
Oh, wow.
If the tectonic plates are pulled down in an area, like Hudson Bay, there's less mass below you, and therefore less gravity.
No.
The second theory has to do with something called the Laurentide Ice Sheet. Back in the Ice Age, there was this giant sheet of ice that covered most of where Canada and the northern US are now.
Whoa.
It was like
Hang on a second, no glossing over that. I just want to look at this entire ice sheet. What was it called? The Laurentide Ice Sheet? Which way do I need to go to see this thing or to see the word? The Laurentide Ice Sheet. That is a massive, massive thing. Where is it? Look at that. I mean, I know it was called the Ice Age for a reason, but as a singular ice sheet, that is insane. And really, looking at this entire thing, I can only imagine virtually the entire top of the hemisphere would have been frozen, but it's just not included in this one ice sheet or something. Because of course, there's no way that it's going to be frozen like that in a singular ice sheet, but then not actually be frozen in Alaska and not frozen up in the top of Canada and Greenland and everything. Like, that's just inverted to kind of what it is now. And so that would actually just make it interesting. How much of the Earth was probably covered in ice during the Ice Age? I really don't know. I'm just trying to find a photo that would roughly indicate it. Oh, actually, look at this one. This seems to kind of be indicating a very similar, I've already forgotten the name of it, but that ice sheet that we saw before, I guess I can actually see that it is one massive ice sheet. I mean, I guess that doesn't mean it's necessarily not covered in snow elsewhere, but that's just one ice sheet. And so that really does put it in perspective in some regards, just seeing these massive other ones over here, and that's all of Greenland, but then look at the size of that thing. And so yeah, that makes me wonder, what did the bottom of the Earth look like? Because that's obviously the top of the Earth, but I feel as though no kind of NASA satellites and no one's putting much energy into the bottom of the Earth. I mean, I guess we've kind of got this massively icy Earth right here, but I feel as though that wouldn't have been the case. I really don't know what the temperature was when it got down to the Ice Age. See, so much to learn, but anyway, back to the entire thing.
The second theory has to do with something called the Laurentide Ice Sheet. Back in the Ice Age, there was this giant sheet of ice that covered most of where Canada and the northern US are now. It was like an ice skating rink, except 2.5 million square miles across and about 2 miles or 3.2 kilometers thick. So actually not 0.5 million square
6.5 million square kilometers, so that's like the size of, okay, so it's not actually as big as Russia, but it's fairly sure it's the same size as the US. But then for all of that ice, I mean, I don't really know where that water would have come from in terms of being fresh water, but then for 3.2 kilometers thick by 6.5 million square kilometers, that is just a ridiculous amount of volume. I don't understand where all that water came from, or how does it kind of distill itself, or what happens to all the salt, because I can only imagine that it would have come from the oceans, but still, that is just a stupid amount of size and volume and weight and everything. And so did it depress it, kind of like the Grand Canyon or something?
2 miles or 3.2 kilometers thick, so actually not like an ice skating rink at all, and in 2 places in Hudson Bay, it was even thicker, close to 2.3 miles or 3.7 kilometers. About 10,000 years ago, the ice melted and it left behind a massive dent in the Earth. That dent pushed a bunch of Earth to the sides. So now, if you stand in that dent, there's less mass below you. And like we said before, less mass equals less gravity. The Earth is slowly rebounding from the dent, but at a rate of half an inch or 1.25 centimeters a year, so it's going to take a while for things to get back to normal, and therefore until then, there's less gravity in the area.
It went from 3.2 kilometers all the way down to 4 point something? 3.7 kilometers. So I guess that's up by what, 500 meters was it? Yeah, 3.2 to 3.7. And so to be claiming it back at, what was it, 1.25 centimeters a year? I mean, the Earth has got a long way to go, but I guess every little bit counts. And over already 10,000 years, I would have moved up a little bit. But no, 100 meters and it needs 500. Well, I guess that certainly means that there's quite a long way to go. Another 40 to 50,000 years to go in that regard. And so I guess people will certainly be able to be just a little bit lighter for quite a little bit longer. But I guess really, if I don't know if I'll be able to find it, oh, actually, here we go. It just doesn't really describe to me still why there is just massive, I guess, low patches of gravity under Sri Lanka and everything. Like, why do we have these other places? If that was kind of just carved by a massive glacial ice sheet, I can go, yeah, sure. But then how the hell, like I said, is it over at Puerto Rico and down with Sri Lanka and then in the middle of China? Where the hell did those low patches of gravity come from?
So it's going to take a while for things to get back to normal, and therefore until then, there's less gravity in the area.
Even the fact
Now,
that
it's
it can
important to
recover.
note that when you're in the dent, you're also closer to the center of the Earth's gravity, which makes gravity stronger. After all, the closer you are to something,
True.
the stronger the gravity, but in this theory, the loss of gravity caused by the reduction in mass below you is more than the gain in gravity resulting from being closer to the Earth's center.
Wow, well that's certainly some complicated science. Or I guess it's not complicated, it's quite simple. It's either greater than or less than. But really the fact that you're going, okay, so you're losing approximately this much mass, but then you're gaining this much gravity, and yeah, sure, just slightly less.
So which theory is right? Well, as a certain taco ad once wisely said, ¿por qué no los dos? As it turns out, both theories were right. Geophysicists at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics satellite data from the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, or GRACE, were finally able to calculate that the rebounding ice sheet and the swirling magma are each causing about half of the missing gravity, and so the mystery solved. And just to think, gravity might have gotten away with it if it weren't for those pesky geophysicists.
Always with the geophysicists, you just try and do something like gravity and then nope, you just have to get completely shut down. But no, going back to this entire thing, it certainly makes sense. If there was an anomaly, you're going, hang on, we might have a little bit over here and a little bit over here, but why is this just one place just so compounded with it? I guess less compounded if it's got less gravity. Either way, just the combination of them saying that they have half each certainly makes sense, or I can certainly guess accept that entire fact. I mean, I guess out of the two, I'm kind of more interested in the entire one on the left in terms of the magma and the circulation and all those kind of things, because I never would have thought that just the circulation would be enough to pull the entire tectonic plate down to that kind of degree, and also to the fact that it's even that peaky. Like, why isn't it kind of just spread all over the world and moves around? Why is it just kind of circulating and just pulling down into a vacuum in that one spot in particular? I mean, I can certainly understand the entire glacial ice kind of compactness of the entire thing. That makes sense. And I certainly feel for the rock that was underneath just a stupid amount of water, I guess frozen water for a very, very long time. But either way, the entire thing, the fact that it was discovered by this bloody telescope, GRACE for goodness sake, which I must admit I've never heard of, but man, Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment. I mean, I can only assume it was quite expensive, but it sounds like it could be worthwhile if you kind of found some just crazy anomaly that you could use to a certain thing. But no, this video was certainly just a great starter in terms of just going, oh, could I have this? Why could I have this? And it actually ended up being a combination, which definitely makes sense as to how it can be an anomaly and just kind of multiplying the effects. I mean, kind of going back to the start of the video when he was talking about not eating pasta as kind of I guess an alternative to losing weight. You just go to the Hudson Bay. I don't fully know about that one, considering the fact that he said it was 0.01 of a kilo or something like that. So it's very, very negligible. And so definitely don't think you're going to be able to kind of go on a diet, so to say, just by going from, I guess, where is it? Here we go. Just from one of these red places where you're going, oh, I just weigh so much more, and then it'll just step over into the blue and go, see how much weight I lost? I don't even have to do anything. My metabolism's fine. No, you just have to kind of stop eating pasta. And honestly, the trip between most of these places is going to cause you to lose more weight than anything else. But anyway, in saying that, I reckon I'm going to call it there. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to do the YouTube algorithmic things down below. Also, if this is the first video of mine that you're watching, then make sure to check out just any other plethora of videos that I've got. I've got Canadian videos, international videos, Australian videos, and everything else in between. And also make sure to check out the original video in the description below, because that was just a great starter into the entire randomness that is gravity. Or hey, maybe even just want to consider subscribing so that you don't miss another one of these in the future. But all in all, have a good one and see ya.